Hi, this is Anne Marie with the Heritage Area, again with Kevin Pawlak from Prince William County, here to wrap up our visits to the Manassas battlefield to commemorate the anniversary of 1st Manassas here on July 21st of 1861. So by the afternoon, the United States soldiers have been pushed off of their position on Henry Hill, and they're going to go helter-skelter, really back up north to where they can reunify, regroup, and care for their wounded and their dead. Now, on their way northward, they are quickly stymied in the area of Centerville Heights, where they're going to encounter a not insignificant number of civilians who traveled down from Washington, D.C. to watch the battlefield from a few miles away. While they weren't in the thick of the fighting, some records suggest that just about every hack from Washington, D.C. was taken up. There weren't any taxis left, there weren't any wagons left, so you can imagine the traffic jam that was created as thousands of people tried to move northward after the battle. As they're leaving, they're throwing guns aside, they're also throwing their supplies. We know that ambulances, wagons are left behind. In addition to that, there are thousands of dead who are left on the, thousands of wounded, I should say rather, that are left here on the field. About 2,600 individuals are wounded in 1st Manassas, and a lot of them are left here on the field of battle.
Yeah, so, we think about Manassas as being, by later scale, of course, in the American Civil War, it's relatively one of the smaller fights. About 5,000 casualties, it's men killed, wounded, missing, or captured during the day. But back then in 1861, this was actually the largest battle in American history up to that point. It's the bloodiest single day in American history up to that point. It will soon be eclipsed within just over a year. But nonetheless, this was a tremendously important event, of course. As we talked about at the beginning of this, both sides, many people on both sides believed that it was just going to be one large battle that was going to decide the fate of the Confederate States of America and the United States of America. But ultimately, of course, the stage for a 4-year war was really set here on the plains of Manassas on July 21st. And so while we think about this as a one-day action, you could really say that, again, it extends into almost 4 years because of this is just laying the groundwork for what we're going to see later on in the American Civil War. And for all the families of the soldiers that are lost here, of course, July 21st, 1861 lasted much longer for them. Just one example, in the area where we're standing now, the Lieutenant Colonel of the 33rd Virginia, a fellow by the name of William Fitzhugh Lee, was wounded by either a Union bullet to the chest or a piece of Union shrapnel, perhaps from some of the guns there behind us. And Lee was carried back to the Pringle House Hospital at Ben Lomond. He lingered there for 8 days. His wife, Lily, they'd been married less than 2 years, came down to be with him, tried to nurse him back to health. But ultimately, she was unsuccessful in those efforts, and Willie died about a week after receiving his wound here on top of Henry Hill. But for Lily, she never remarried. She wore black mourning garb for the rest of her life, and so for her, the next 54 years of her life were really centered on July 21st, 1861, and you could almost think about and argue that this battle lasted 54 years for her, because she was always haunted by what happened here to her husband that, of course, ultimately killed him just about a week after this battle. So while it's just one day and relatively small in the grand scheme of things, what happens here is incredibly important to American history and to the history of the Civil War.
That's right. So civilians learned a lot from this battle. In addition, of course, we know that both sides of the military learned a lot as well, learned some of the deficits of their training so far. Again, the war, no one had been trained for more than a few months, at a time, a lot of these soldiers on the field, and civilians themselves learned a lot throughout the experience as well. We're going to see a number of aid societies springing up, understanding where they can funnel their resources to. We're also going to see communities taking a bigger hand in field hospitals. A lot of the wounded from 1st Manassas are carted away as far as Warrenton, and I think Charlottesville too, is that right?
Yep.
So it's by no means an encounter that only affects this area here by Manassas Junction. So join us again. I'm sure we're going to be seeing more of Kevin and the other folks here at Prince William County Historic Preservation Division as we go forward. Thank you.